We're in Kirby Drive at the Confessions nightclub, just behind me upstairs. This is a shooting. We got two victims. The one's been shot multiple times in the torso, probably in his late 20s. Another one's been shot in the extremities, in the lower extremities, and also all throughout his arms and everything several times. Right now, and they're both in very critical condition.
Then you look at Lul Pab, real name Lul Pab Robinson, Quando Rondo's cousin, who was killed at a Los Angeles gas station on August 19, 2022. The same case that now sits at the center of Lil Durk's upcoming trial, showing how everything is still connected years later. Derek, real name Derek Bertrand, another associate, lost his life at just 24 years old after being shot outside Juicy's Lounge in Lake Charles, Louisiana, on October 3, 2025. And that wasn't long ago at all. That's still fresh, still recent, still part of the current reality. There's also the situation involving Mohammed DTI, 43-year-old bystander who had nothing to do with anything, yet lost his life in crossfire during an attempt on YoungBoy himself outside Trump International Hotel in Miami back in 2019, showing how even people not involved end up getting pulled into these situations. Larry Harris, the same passenger from D-Dog's 2022 police chase, lost his life in that crash, adding another name to the list. And NBA Lil Pap, real name DeAndre Fields, received 5 years in prison tied to the 2017 killing of rival Baton Rouge rapper G-Money, which again shows how long this pattern has been repeating. And when you really step back, you start to see the cycle clearly. Death, prison, repeating over and over without really stopping. And that pattern is what shapes everything happening right now. Because when something like the Houston shooting happens, it's not isolated. It's another moment added onto a long chain of events that's been building for years. Now bring it back to Ben10, because his own history tells you exactly what kind of environment all of this comes from. Ben Anthony Fields, born December 13, 1999 in Baton Rouge, grew up on the north side. The same area as YoungBoy, and their connection goes all the way back to childhood, not just music or business. That MBA in his name isn't just for show either. It represents his place inside the Never Broke Again collective, connected directly to OG33, one of the original founders alongside YoungBoy. He built a following of over 1 million on Instagram and gained recognition through tracks like Play With Me, but at the same time, his legal history runs alongside his music career in a way that can't be ignored. Back in September 2020, he was arrested alongside YoungBoy and around 15 others during a music video shoot on Chippewa Street in Baton Rouge, where police recovered multiple firearms, including stolen weapons and assault rifles, leading to a suspended sentence for him in that case. Then in 2022, another arrest came through, this time tied to gun and drug charges. And what stands out is the timing, because it happened just 6 days after he had been released from a previous incarceration, showing how quickly things can reset back into the same pattern. Around that same time, his cousin Marvin Batiste lost his life in a drive-by shooting on I-10 near Prairieville in December 2021, another loss tied into the ongoing conflict between NBA and rival groups in Baton Rouge. And when you look at the bigger picture, there are 3 major conflicts surrounding this entire situation right now, and each one adds pressure in its own way. First, you have NBA versus the Bleeders, a local Baton Rouge conflict between YoungBoy's NBA and 4KT's side against Bleeders. It's also known as 1 New K or MWE, both coming from rival areas on the north side. And what makes it even more complicated is that some of these people actually grew up together before everything split apart. That conflict alone has already led to multiple losses, including Ben10's cousin back in 2020 and other incidents like the deaths of True, Bleeda and his associate Cliff outside the Mall of Louisiana in February 2022, showing how deep and personal that divide has become. Then you have the second conflict, NBA and Quando Rondo against Lil Durk and OTF, which started with King Von's death in 2020 and escalated through music before turning into real-world consequences like the killing of Lul Pab in 2022, which now sits at the center of a federal case. The third situation involves YoungBoy and NLE Choppa, a more recent back and forth that escalated in late 2025 through diss tracks and online exchanges, even reaching the point where a graphic edited image was posted online. It's pushing things into a different kind of tension that adds even more pressure to everything already going on. But here's where everything becomes complicated in a different way, because despite all of this, YoungBoy has been publicly saying he wants to move away from the chaos, not toward it. During his Atlanta Massa tour stop, he told the crowd he no longer carries weapons and is trying to do the right thing. And in a recent Complex interview, he talked about stepping back from beefs because they don't bring him anything positive anymore, showing a completely different mindset than before. So now you have someone actively trying to change direction, trying to stay away from problems, trying to move forward, and at the exact same time, his childhood friend is laying in a hospital after getting shot multiple times inside a Houston restaurant. And that contrast is what makes this moment feel so intense. Because how long can someone stay calm when everything around them keeps pulling them back into the same cycle? Now bring it back to that Houston shooting, because there are still major questions that haven't been answered yet. The incident happened at Confessions Restaurant and Lounge on 3200 Kirby Drive in the Upper Kirby area. It's an upscale spot known for its nightlife, and according to the owner, Sterling Lewis, it started as an altercation involving someone leaving and another group arriving for a birthday celebration, turning into something much bigger than anyone expected. Between 20 and 30 people were inside when everything went down. Shots were fired, chaos broke out, and as of now, no arrests have been made. The shooter hasn't been publicly identified, and investigators are still working through video footage and witness statements to figure out exactly what happened. Lieutenant Wilkins confirmed they have strong video evidence and cooperation from witnesses, but the details are still being pieced together. One key detail that stands out is that authorities are actively evaluating whether the shooter, who appears to be the robbery victim, acted in self-defense, which could completely change how this case is handled legally. Because if that holds, the person who fired those shots might not face charges at all. And that opens up another layer to the situation that makes everything even more complicated. But that still leaves one question hanging over everything. Where does that leave Ben10 in all of this? And what role did he actually play in those moments when everything went left? In all of this, one question still sits at the center and refuses to go away. What role did Ben10 actually play in that moment when everything turned into chaos? Was he one of the attackers in that chain-snatching situation? Or was he just another victim caught in the middle when shots started going off? Right now, there are no confirmed answers. And that uncertainty is exactly what makes this entire situation feel so unstable. Because when facts are missing, speculation takes over fast, and that creates pressure from every direction. And this is exactly why this moment is so dangerous for YoungBoy, because when you look at his position right now, it almost doesn't make sense on paper. He's completely free, walking around without legal restrictions after receiving a presidential pardon, sitting on more money than he's ever had before, with a documentary about to hit theaters nationwide, and the entire industry watching him reach a level most people thought was impossible. Everything says he should be untouchable right now. Everything says he made it out, but reality is telling a completely different story behind the scenes. Because when you line it all up, everyone he came up with is either gone or locked away, and that contrast hits hard every time you actually say the names out loud. D-Dog is facing 10 years. Quando is locked in on a federal sentence. Big Dump is gone. Derek is gone. And now Ben10 is laying in a hospital bed fighting to stay alive after taking multiple shots. And that's not just random events. That's a pattern that keeps repeating over and over again. At some point, all of that builds up inside a person whether they show it or not, and eventually something has to give. People who understand YoungBoy's personality already know how he moves. They know he's emotional. They know he reacts fast. And they know he doesn't always sit back and process things slowly. And that's part of what made him stand out as an artist in the first place. That raw reaction, that real emotion, that ability to turn pain into music instantly, that's what built his fan base. But at the same time, that same energy can become dangerous when real-life pressure stacks too high. Because all it takes is one moment, one decision made off emotion instead of calculation, and everything he built could shift instantly. And that's why this situation goes way beyond just one shooting inside a Houston restaurant. Because this isn't isolated. This is part of a bigger cycle that keeps repeating, no matter how far someone gets or how much money they make. You can leave the city, you can move states away, you can change your surroundings completely. But the history, the connections, and the conflicts don't just disappear overnight. The streets don't loosen their grip easily, and the problems don't fade just because success comes in. YoungBoy left Baton Rouge, moved to Utah, built a life away from the environment he came from, secured financial freedom. And still the same issues keep circling back through the people around him, showing that distance doesn't always mean safety. Those long-running tensions don't just end quietly. And the targets that get placed on people don't vanish just because the spotlight gets bigger. If anything, it makes everything more visible and more complicated at the same time. And now, with Lil Durk's trial set to begin on April 21st, just days away, everything connected to this situation is about to get even more intense. Because once that courtroom opens up, every detail, every connection, every past event gets pulled back into focus again. That timing alone adds even more pressure to everything already happening, and it puts even more attention on this entire situation moving forward. So where does everything go from here? Right now, Ben10 remains under close monitoring, with the latest updates saying he's alert and expected to survive, but still officially listed in critical condition, which means he's not out of danger yet, not even close. Houston police are continuing their investigation, reviewing surveillance footage, speaking with witnesses, and trying to piece together exactly what happened in those seconds when everything went left. But as of now, no arrests have been made. And one of the biggest factors in how this plays out is whether authorities determine that the shooter acted in self-defense. Because if that's confirmed, this case could take a completely different direction legally. It might not lead to charges at all. That possibility alone keeps everything uncertain, because it changes how responsibility is viewed in a situation that already lacks clear answers. At the same time, Boy Youngin has already spoken out emotionally, showing just how real this situation is for the people directly involved. While the rest of the NBA collective continues to rally around Ben10 as he fights through this, and through all of that, YoungBoy remains silent. Still watching everything unfold, still processing what might be the most difficult stretch of his entire career without saying a word publicly, and that silence is what keeps people asking the same question over and over again. Will he stay calm, or will he react? Because history shows both sides, it shows growth. But it also shows moments where emotion took over. And right now he's standing right in the middle of that line again. When you really think about it, he's already carried more than most people ever will. He's watched people close to him lose their lives. He's seen others get locked away for years. He's been targeted himself, and still kept going, still building, still pushing forward no matter what came at him. That kind of resilience doesn't come easy, but at the same time, there's always a limit to how much pressure any one person can hold before something shifts. So this moment with Ben10 could go one of two ways. It could become the breaking point that changes everything. Or it could become just another chapter in a long line of situations he's learned to carry without letting it stop him. And right now, nobody knows which direction it's going to go, because the response hasn't come yet. What we do know is simple. The clock is moving. Durk's trial is approaching fast. Ben10 is still in the hospital. D-Dog and Quando are still locked up. And YoungBoy is sitting in Utah surrounded by success while dealing with constant loss in the background. That contrast is what defines this entire moment, and it's what makes everything feel like it's building towards something bigger. The story isn't finished, not even close, still unfolding in real time. And what happens next depends on decisions that haven't been made yet and answers that still haven't come out. If you want to stay locked in on everything connected to this situation, from the investigation updates to YoungBoy's response and everything surrounding the Durk trial, make sure you're tapped in with Cloud Chase and check out the next video on screen right now, because this story is only getting deeper from here. NBA Ben10 just got hit with multiple gunshots inside a Houston restaurant on April 8th. And right now he's literally fighting to stay alive as everything around this situation keeps getting darker by the hour. D-Dog is already locked away, serving 10 years inside a Louisiana state prison. Quando Rondo is sitting in a federal facility counting down to an April 2027 release, an NBA YoungBoy. The man at the center of all this chaos hasn't said a single word publicly while everything unfolds around him. This isn't just another headline. This is pressure building from every direction at the exact same time, and it's starting to look like everything is closing in fast. Publicly, this might be the toughest stretch of his entire career. No question about it, and what most people aren't even talking about makes it even crazier. YoungBoy is actually at the absolute peak of his success right now, pardoned by the president, coming off a massive $70 million tour. With a documentary about to hit over 1,000 theaters nationwide, everything is supposed to be going up, not falling apart like this. But while all of that success is happening at the same time, his entire inner circle is either gone, locked behind bars, or laid up in a hospital bed trying to survive another day. And that contrast is what makes this situation feel so unreal and so dangerous at the same time. By the time this breaks all the way down, you'll see exactly what went down with Ben10 on April 8th. Why Boy Youngin had no choice but to speak out publicly. And why so many people are starting to believe this might be the moment that pushes YoungBoy into a completely different space, mentally and emotionally. This isn't just about one incident. This is about everything stacking up at once, and it's starting to feel like something bigger is building behind the scenes. So here's what we actually know about that night, April 8th, 2026, around 11:30 p.m. in Houston, Texas, inside an upscale spot called Confessions, located in the Upper Kirby area. Ben10, real name Ben Anthony Fields. Just 26 years old, not just a rapper, but one of YoungBoy's closest childhood friends straight out of Baton Rouge, was right there inside that restaurant when everything suddenly turned into chaos. This wasn't some random drive-by, and it wasn't a clean setup either. It was messy, fast, and completely unpredictable in a way that nobody inside that building saw coming. According to Houston Police Lieutenant R. Wilkins, who gave a full breakdown at the scene, the whole situation started over something simple that escalated way too fast. Someone inside that restaurant got their chain snatched, and it wasn't just a quick grab either. A group rushed him, ripped the jewelry right off his neck, and started stomping him out while he was already down on the floor. That fight didn't just end quickly either. It stretched somewhere between 30 to 60 seconds, and during that time more people kept jumping in, turning it into a full-on pile-up situation that spiraled out of control fast. They got the chains, but this is exactly where everything flipped in a way nobody expected. The person getting robbed had a pistol on him the entire time, and while he was getting beat down on that floor, suddenly pulled it out and started firing into the crowd without warning. No aim, no pause, just shots going off in a packed restaurant, and that's when everything turned from a fight into a life-or-death situation instantly. 2 people ended up getting hit, both landing in critical condition right after. One victim, a man in his late 20s, took multiple shots directly to the torso, while the other, in his mid-20s, got hit several times across both arms and lower body, and both of them were rushed out fighting for their lives. Houston police didn't officially confirm names right away, but it didn't take long before every major hip-hop outlet started reporting the same thing. NBA Ben10 was one of the people who got shot, and that's when the internet completely lost control of the narrative. Within minutes, rumors started flying everywhere, claiming Ben10 was already dead. Spreading across Instagram, X, TikTok, every platform you could think of, people were running with it like it was confirmed, even though none of it was actually verified. This is how fast things spiral now. One moment you're in critical condition, the next moment the internet is already writing your ending before the truth even comes out. By the next morning, Thursday, April 9th, things finally started getting corrected when OG Monique stepped in and shut everything down directly. She's the mother of OG33, one of the original co-founders of the Never Broke Again collective alongside YoungBoy. And she posted a clear message saying 10 is alert. Stop the made-up stories. That one post immediately slowed the rumors, confirming that Ben10 was still alive, still conscious, and expected to pull through. But that doesn't mean he was safe, not even close. Because here's the part people keep overlooking. Police still classified both victims as being in very critical condition, and that wording matters more than anything. That's not stable, that's not recovery. That's literally fighting for your life in a hospital bed while doctors try to keep everything from collapsing, and that's the reality behind all of this right now. And the biggest question still hanging over everything is this. What exactly was Ben10's role in that moment when everything went left? Was he the one who got his chain taken and then fired back? Was he part of the group that rushed in? Or was he just caught in the middle of pure chaos when those shots went off? Even Lieutenant Wilkins admitted investigators weren't sure if the people who got shot were the same individuals involved in the robbery attempt, which leaves everything wide open and makes this situation even more unpredictable than it already looks. Ben10 is alive, but seriously wounded, and the full story still hasn't fully surfaced. And that alone keeps the tension high because too many details are still missing while people are trying to piece everything together. Now, when you bring Boy Youngin into this, the situation gets even heavier. because his involvement adds another layer that most people are overlooking. And to really understand it, you have to look at what happened just days before everything went left. Two separate incidents hit within the same week, and that timing is what makes everything feel off in a way that's hard to ignore. Boy Youngin, real name Jeffrey Tate, just 23 years old. NBA YoungBoy's younger half-brother. Someone who has always been loud about protecting the family name. Suddenly found himself reacting to two completely different narratives about the same person within 4 days, and that shift tells you everything about how fast things spiraled. On April 4th, just 4 days before the actual shooting, a hip-hop media page called My Mixtapes pushed out a report claiming Ben10 had been shot in Baton Rouge. And that story spread fast, even though it had no real confirmation behind it. It turned out to be completely false. Nothing happened to Ben10 that day. But the damage from that rumor was already done because people ran with it like it was real without checking anything. Boy Youngin stepped in immediately and shut it down with no hesitation, posting "Stop spreading that fake-ass news. My brother 10 ain't get shot," making it clear that the story was fabricated and not based on anything real. Ben10's own mother backed that up, along with other NBA associates, all confirming that nothing had happened, and for a moment it looked like just another false alarm that came and went. But then 4 days later, April 8th hits, and everything flips for real this time, because Ben10 actually gets shot in Houston inside that restaurant multiple times. And suddenly that fake story from earlier in the week starts to feel way too close to what actually happened. That kind of timing doesn't sit right with people, and it instantly made the whole situation feel even heavier and more unpredictable. So when Boy Youngin responded to the real shooting, the tone was completely different, and you could feel it immediately. Instead of anger or calling anybody out, multiple Instagram posts and a YouTube clip showed him breaking down emotionally. In the video titled NBA YoungBoy Brother, BWAY, Youngin gets very emotional, speaks on why NBA Ben10 made it clear this wasn't just another situation to brush off. This time it wasn't about reacting. It was about processing something serious that hit way too close. What stood out the most was that his reaction wasn't aggressive. It wasn't loud. It was grief. It was pain. And that shift says more than anything else because it shows how real the situation actually is behind the scenes. When someone known for defending the circle moves like that, you know the weight of it is different, and people watching picked up on that instantly. But while all of that is happening, the biggest question keeps coming back to the same place. Where is NBA YoungBoy in all of this? As of Thursday morning, April 9th, the day after the shooting, there was nothing from him publicly. No Instagram post, no tweet, no story. Just complete silence while everything was blowing up around his name. Hot 97 even pointed it out directly. Reporting that NBA YoungBoy had not reacted to the news of Ben10's shooting at that time. And that silence started creating its own conversation online because people expected some kind of response. Some believe it's strategic, especially with an active investigation going on, because anything said publicly could carry consequences. And in situations like this, silence can sometimes be more calculated than speaking out. But to really understand why this moment hits different for him, you have to step back and look at where he stands right now, because the contrast is what makes everything feel so intense. At this exact moment, NBA YoungBoy is sitting at the highest point of his career, coming off a historic run that most artists don't even come close to touching. He just completed the highest-grossing debut headline tour in U.S. history, the Massa tour, running from September to November 2025, covering 42 sold-out arena shows, moving 552,000 tickets, and generating around $70 million in revenue, which puts him in a completely different category financially and culturally. Complex even named him the best rapper alive for 2025, and his momentum hasn't slowed down at all. He passed E40 as the most decorated hip-hop artist in Billboard 200 history with 34 charting albums. And his project Slime Cry still debuted at number 6 on the Billboard 200 in January 2026, showing that even after everything, his numbers are still hitting at a high level. On top of that, on May 28, 2025, President Donald Trump granted him a full presidential pardon, wiping out his federal firearms convictions and removing 5 years of supervised release, which completely changed his legal situation overnight. Now he's living in Utah, away from everything. With his concert documentary, American YoungBoy, set to hit over 1,000 theaters nationwide starting April 22nd. And on paper, This should be the cleanest, strongest moment of his entire life. Everything lined up perfectly for him to keep going up without interruption. But behind all of that success, there's a completely different reality that doesn't match the numbers, because everyone he came up with is either gone, locked up, or fighting to stay alive right now. And that's the part that really shows the weight he's carrying every single day. Look at D-Dog. Real name Darian Jerome Bailey. It's one of his closest associates, who got hit with a 10-year sentence in Louisiana State Prison on November 4th, 2025. After being charged with negligent homicide and illegal carrying of weapons with controlled dangerous substances, that case came from a high-speed police chase back in September 2022 in Baton Rouge, where he crashed into two vehicles, and his passenger, Larry Harris, was thrown from the car and died at the scene, turning that moment into something permanent. And it didn't start there either, because his record goes back years. Even to when he was just 14, when he was arrested for killing Derek Marion, later pleading guilty to manslaughter and serving 8 years for that case, which shows a pattern that's been following him long before this latest sentence. After the 2025 sentencing, D-Dog even went on Instagram claiming that a unit called the Brave Team framed him and pressured him into taking a plea deal by threatening a life sentence. And whether that claim holds any truth or not, the outcome didn't change. He's still locked in for a decade. Then you have Quando Rondo, real name Tyquan Terrell Bowman, who received a 33-month federal sentence on December 11, 2024, after pleading guilty to conspiracy to possess and distribute marijuana, which breaks down to about 2 years and 9 months behind bars. What a lot of people don't highlight is that the original indictment carried way heavier charges involving methamphetamine, fentanyl, and cocaine, but those were dropped as part of the plea agreement, which shifted the entire case outcome. He reported to the Bureau of Prisons on January 10, 2025. And since then, he's been sitting in that federal system, removed from everything happening on the outside, while everything around the NBA circle continues to change in real time. Right now, Quando Rondo is locked up at Elkton Federal Correctional Institution in Lisbon, Ohio, sitting on a projected release date of April 20, 2027, still more than a year away from touching freedom again. And that alone already puts distance between him and everything unfolding outside. But his situation doesn't exist on its own. It connects directly into something way bigger that's about to explode at the exact same time. Because while Ben10 is laying in a hospital bed fighting to stay alive, another situation tied to this same circle is about to hit a courtroom in a way that could shift everything permanently. Lil Durk caught an arrest back in October 2024 on federal murder for hire conspiracy charges. The accusations are serious, centered around claims that he allegedly put a price on a hit connected to Quando Rondo's cousin Lil Pab, who was killed back in August 2022. Federal prosecutors are claiming that Durk put up $1 million for that plot, and now that case is no longer just talk. It's moving forward fast, with his trial officially scheduled to begin on April 21, 2026, just days away from when all of this is happening. So while one person is fighting for survival in a hospital, another is about to step into a courtroom where the outcome could change his life forever, and all of it is tied into the same long-running conflict. And that's what makes this hit even heavier, because this isn't some new tension. This goes all the way back years, especially to November 2020, when King Von, an associate of Durk, was killed in a situation involving Quando Rondo's side, and ever since then, this back and forth has never really stopped. It's been a chain reaction of losses, retaliation, constant pressure building on both sides. And now all of it is being dragged into a federal courtroom where everything will be examined under a microscope. You think YoungBoy isn't carrying that weight right now, while all of this is lining up at the same time? Because when you zoom out and look at everything he's lived through, it goes way deeper than just D-Dog or Quando Rondo. This is years of losses stacking on top of each other in a way that doesn't really slow down. Big Dump, real name Desmond Harden, wasn't just someone in the background. He was YoungBoy's manager, someone close. And he got killed in a drive-by shooting in Baton Rouge on May 7, 2018. And the way YoungBoy responded to that says everything about how personal this all gets, because in his track letter to Big Dump, he raps, "I had a conversation with the man who contracted your life to be gone," meaning he actually spoke to the person behind it, which shows how deep these situations really go.